Hello, my lovelies. Welcome to the podcast. We had a name change effective last week. I'll explain exactly what happened. So, we were going to call the podcast the Black Sheep Society podcast. We did about 12 or 13 episodes under that name. I wanted to create some merch to be able to promote the podcast. Ran into some copyright issues with the name. So, I changed the name starting last week to Be the Change. And it's kind of tongue in cheek. It's something that my mom always used to say. It was one of her favorite sayings: be the change you wish to see in the world. So it still fits with what I want the podcast to be about. It's still going to be something that we share knowledge, that it's for the chosen ones, but it's really for everybody. But it's a place where we can kind of come together and share knowledge, expand, learn, and grow and heal, break cycles. So the premise behind the name change has to do with copyright issues. There is merch. It is available in my LINKTREE. I'll put it in the description box of the podcast video. So today's episode is going to be kind of a different one. It's going to be about dreams. So I personally have had many, many dreams that are a little bit woo-woo, a little bit out there. But before we get into that, I want to show you some of the merch that I'm actually designing. So the shirt that I currently have on, if I don't run over the puppies, this one is called the WTF with the Faith shirt. So you can see the angel wings, the cross, and the crown of thorns. So I designed this one around Easter time, obviously having to do with the resurrection of Jesus Christ, that, he is our one Lord and Savior, that he died on the cross, all those things. So it's symbolic for that reason. I grew up very Christian in a Methodist household. I had a great grandfather that was a Methodist minister. So my faith has been something that has been part of my journey. I don't consider myself religious anymore. I'm spiritual in nature. So while I still believe in God, I still believe in Jesus. You'll hear me use interchangeable terms, especially in my tarot readings: God, source, spirit, the universe, Jesus. To me, they're like synonymous with each other. Creator is another one that I tend to use. So whatever you happen to call that higher power, I wholeheartedly still believe in a God. But I talk to everything, every living creature I talk to when I put my energy out there. So that's my own 2 cents. There is more than this for merch on the channel. So we're going to have a podcast specific t-shirt and hoodie. We're going to have t-shirts and hoodies mostly. So each one of these designs is going to have a t-shirt version and a hoodie version. Those are things that I wear the most. So I wanted to incorporate things that I thought other people might wear. We're going to have one for just my channel, Karma Walking. We're going to have 2 different designs of that. One of them is going to have the pink background with the flower border on it with the name on it. And then the other one is going to have more of like a galaxy theme to it, where it looks like a star kind of exploding, which I thought was really cool. So we're going to have 2 different versions of that, the podcast and this one. So those are going to be the 4 main things that I'm working on behind the scenes. So check out the link in the bio. Once they're all uploaded and everything, you can purchase them as they become available. It will be on Amazon Merch on Demand. So that is the major announcement for the channel. So anyways, back to our topic of hand: dreams. Okay, I have had crazy psychic dreams since I was a little kid. That's actually how I knew I was psychic in nature. Was I would have these really like off the wall, oddball dreams since I was a small child. Magnus is over there getting into stuff. Hang on, buddy. These crazy dogs, they're always into stuff. So anyways, when I was a really small kid, I had dreams and nightmares that didn't make sense to me, like stuff that I had never seen before. One of them was a past life dream that I later realized that's exactly what it was. But as a small kid, I had like these crazy dreams that just didn't make sense for literally years. I would also have like a chronic migraine problem. And I want to say my chronic migraine started around the time that I was being molested as a kid. So around 8 to 10 years old is when my chronic migraines started. Are they connected? I don't necessarily know, but perhaps they are. But there was definitely like some childhood trauma. There's a whole episode about that. It's the very first one of the podcast called The Awakening. So when I had these crazy dreams, sometimes I just thought they were nightmares, right? I didn't put two and two together for a really long time. But as a teenager, they started to intensify. And so some of them actually started to feel more like deja vu, that I started to actually have like, oh my gosh, I had a dream about that and shit, now it happened, So what the fuck? What is this trying to tell me, right? So I got some dream books, tried to analyze some of them. I looked some things up online over the years, trying to get to the bottom of what some of them meant. Some of them I feel like I figured out, and others I was like, I don't fucking know what in the hell this is trying to tell me, right? But there's something crazy going on. So I kept a dream log for many, many years. It also helped me to write my autobiography, Stepping Stones to Destiny. It is also for sale. A link in the bio. You're going to see all that stuff. The link tree is going to have all of the goodies that we discussed. So dreams were something that allowed me to kind of see into other realms, let's say. And so during these dreams, they're very, very detailed. I have such vivid dreams that it's like I'm awake. It's very detailed. There's sound involved. Sometimes there's music playing. I dream in color. A lot of people don't see things in color. I have like full on conversations, but it's not with like words out of your mouth. It's all telepathic, right? Because that's how spirit connects to us, is through our thoughts. So, all of this started for me when I was a small child, right? I had these crazy dreams that I just couldn't explain. A lot of them felt like nightmares. I remember having recurring dreams for many, many years. I didn't have any idea what they even meant. So, that is the premise for today's podcast, is we're going to discuss some of these dreams. Now, I will tell you that I had a recent dream. Today is May 1st when I'm recording this. You won't see this until this weekend on like the 3rd or something, 3rd or 4th. So this morning, I woke up having a really awful nightmare about somebody that I don't personally know, but they are a well-known figure. They also have a podcast, they have a TikTok channel, and they have a gazillion followers. So I was really hesitant to like, do I mention this person's name? Not that they would ever see this. I guarantee you they would never see this unless somebody sent it to them. Maybe don't do that. The dream was pretty disturbing. I posted a video on on TikTok and YouTube. I don't know why words can never come out of my mouth when I'm trying to talk, but the dream was disturbing in nature because not only was the dream itself disturbing to me, like it stuck with me and it gave me this unsettled feeling. And you'll understand why I feel like it's not cool when I tell you about the rest of the dreams that I've had over the years. So this person, I'm just going to call him by his first name, Leo. Um, he's a really well-known figure. He has his own podcast that I've never seen an episode of. I should check that out. And his energy is beautiful. He's got just a smile on his face, even when he's having an off day, when he's making his videos and stuff. He just has this aura, this energy about him that it puts a smile on your fucking face. There's been nights where I'm just having an off day myself and a video of his will just randomly pop up and you just can't help but smile. Like, he's just a lovable human being. And he's a Pisces like I am. So I feel like there's just, this kindred spirit of he's just a beautiful soul. And so I really hope that this is just a whacked out stupid dream that I had, because I have those, it happens. So anyway, long story short, I had a dream that I was somehow um, with him and another female. I don't know who the other female is at all. I don't know why I would be there. We don't know each other or anything like that. And I don't anticipate that our paths will actually cross. So really weird that I would have a dream about him. I don't remember seeing any videos of his before I went to sleep or anything. So strange, right? So anyways, in this dream, there's three of us. We look like we're in this big fancy house, hotel, something. And for whatever reason, there's like this hidden room somewhere. It's very secluded and it opens up into what looks like a large bathroom. Okay. And so I dip out. I'm like, okay, cool. It's a bathroom, whatever. And I go do something else. So I come back to find them and I go back in this weird room and they're in the shower together making out and doing the deed, right? They're obviously clearly engaged in something. I was like, my bad. I turn around and I walk out. I'll give you guys some privacy. I don't want to be part of that. Nothing, not trying to invade your space. So whatever, a few days later, we're all together again, and this woman goes into like a jealous fit of rage, and she pulls out a gun and she ends up shooting him. Jealous for what? I don't know. Maybe thinking that because he's actually not interested in women, that she like had some sort of inkling that they were going to be a thing, and that didn't happen, and so she was just like super enraged, and she pulls out a gun and she shoots him, and I watch all this unfold in my dream. The dream is so disturbing to me because I see correlations in certain things that he himself has mentioned in his videos and probably his podcast. So one of those things being that he's obsessed with Gianni Versace. Like, he wears Versace, he owns Versace things, sunglasses, clothing, jewelry, like all of these things, right? That's his thing. He loves it. He's obsessed with it. Dresses in black and gold. That's a lot of like Versace's colors that I've seen him have. Just all these crazy things that there's more and more details that make it so unsettling to me. So, anyway, in this dream, after she shoots him, for whatever reason, I'm like an observer in this dream. It's like I'm not actually interacting with either of them in really any capacity. I'm just like watching it all unfold in my dream. It's so bizarre. So she shoots him. Somebody calls the police, and I watch him be hauled out on a stretcher in a body bag. Like, she literally killed him. So if you put some of these elements together, like, that's not cool. I don't want to dream about things like that. Very disturbing dream for me. And too many details for me to just go, oh, yeah, it was just a dream. So I want it documented. I have it written in my dream log. I made a short little video that I did not mention his name in for a reason. I'm only putting it in here for context, and I didn't mention his last name, but anybody who knows who this person is going to kind of connect the dots and know for themselves. Please do not tag him in anything. I'm not trying to fearmonger. I'm not trying to clout chase. I'm not trying to like scare him in any way, shape, or form, or anyone else. I just had this really unsettling dream, and so I feel like if something ever did come of it, I need to know that this was something that I saw happen, and that's literally the only reason why I'm even discussing it at all. So there are some weird correlations. So let's discuss, what is a dream. Okay, we've all had them. We all have them regularly. So a dream is defined as a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind during sleep, right? We've all had those. We know what a dream is. So, we have those, right? Not all of them mean they're going to happen. Not all of them are predictive in nature. Unfortunately, sometimes we do have those. So, a couple of things that I feel are a little bit weird that he has mentioned in his videos is that his birth date and the date that Versace himself was actually assassinated in his own home, that Leo has been to and stayed at. It's now like a B&B or a hotel. A little weird, right? Like, he's obsessed with this person. He's obsessed with the idea of him. He loves all of the jewelry and clothing and things that this designer made. He's worldwide well known, this designer. And so it's just weird. It's weird for me to even be dreaming about crazy things like this. So Leo's birthday, which is public knowledge, is March 7th, 1998, and Gianni Versace was assassinated in July of 1997 in Florida. So, within, like a few months of each other, from March to July. So, July to March, July of 97 to March of 98. So, I believe in reincarnation. I've seen a few instances of it happen where it's just uncanny. There's just so many things that it's like, how could it not be reincarnation, right? Did a whole podcast episode of past lives and reincarnation. If you're interested, check that out. We go into more detail, but I do feel like he could potentially be Versace reincarnated. He totally could be. He's obsessed with Florida. Where did Versace live? His mansion was in Florida, okay? Um, He's obsessed with like fashion and things like that. They're both gay men, not that there's any, real connection to that or anything. It's just weird how many coincidences there are when you start to actually connect the dots. So that's where we're going to start today's podcast episode, is all these weird things that happen in dreams. Okay. So, like I said, I had reoccurring dreams from the time I was a really small child. Some of those had to do with my own past lives. In the first one that I can remember, I watched myself be gunned down in a man's body. I was running from the mob. Wild shit, right? I was 4 when I started to have dreams like that. So please explain that if anybody has any insight, because I don't, other than reincarnation. I was terrified of guns for most of my life. Hated them. I shoot them now. I think they're a lot of fun, but I was absolutely terrified of guns for a long time. I have scars on my body where I saw the bullets enter in my dream from surgeries in this lifetime. Explain that one, because I can't. Okay, so there's lots of weird things. So I have had 2 predictive dreams that are predictive in nature that I had either years or a month or so before the passing of 2 people that I was related to. So the first one was my former sister-in-law, my ex-husband's sister. And her and I were best friends in high school. That's how I met him. And many, many years later, after I was divorced from my ex-husband, her brother, I had a dream that for whatever reason, I was at like a family barbecue. And I wasn't part of that family anymore. We had been divorced for a long time. We didn't like hang out and socialize like that anymore. Most people don't. So what was weird is my sister-in-law and I were alone in the kitchen, and we just happened to be having a conversation. And she tells me that she needed me to do a haircut on her. And I was a former hairstylist, like still a licensed cosmetologist, all that good stuff. And so she proceeds to tell me that she's been really ill and that she needed me to like shave her head completely bald. And I was like, why would I do that? Like, you're crazy. Let's just give you a regular haircut. And she said, no, it's like it's falling out. So I need you to like shave it all the way off. In my dream, I equated that to maybe she had cancer. She didn't, to my knowledge, but I was like, okay, that's a really odd request. Whatever. Wake up from the dream. Couple of days or whatever go by. I was due to go see my kids. They didn't live with me at the time. And so I just kind of casually brought it up in conversation to my older boys. And I said, have you seen your aunt lately? Is everything okay? Has she been sick that you know of or anything like that? And they were like, no, she's totally cool. Last time we saw her, she was fine and everything. So I dropped it. I was like, okay, it's just a stupid dream. Wrote it in my dream log, left it alone. About a year or 2 later, fast forward, and my middle son had come to live with me, and my ex-husband texted me out of the blue and said, I hate to break news like this to anyone, but it's early in the morning. I don't want to call and wake anybody up. Really sorry to have to tell you, but my sister was tragically killed in a car accident last night by a drunk driver who was street racing, and the car actually had gone on top of her car. He was going so fast. So, like, this was her car. The other car had come from behind her, landed on top of her, and it had smashed her, basically. And so she was killed as a result of that car accident. So, unrelated on how exactly she passed, but why did I dream that she was dying? Like a year ahead of time. I don't know. I have no idea. Her and I were not in a good place when she had passed away. We weren't on speaking terms. There had been a lot of bad blood between us for years before. And so I carried a lot of guilt with like not resolving issues prior to her passing and subsequently after. So I had a lot of like guilt that I had to work through. Um, my ex-husband and my sister-in-law's mom, my mother-in-law, we had a lot of bad blood over the years too, typical like mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship, but it wasn't always that way. We were close for a long time. And so subsequently, after the fact, slowly, I started to let people know that I had this gift. And it was kind of like they heard it through the grapevine, sort of, really, how it came about was really weird. She ended up getting subsequent readings from me. And mind you, we didn't keep in touch after the divorce simply because there was a lot of issues. And so I didn't really know a lot about her life or anything. She referred other friends of hers that I didn't know anything about for readings and things like that. So some weird things have transpired as a result of all of these things. So that was one of the first like really predictive ones that had happened, and the time frame was kind of broad, like it was at least a year after the fact that I had had that dream. But I had had other ones, so I just want to double check my notes so I get everything correct. So some of these events that unfolded were not just dreams, but they were other like life-altering events that happened. So one of my former best friends, Jason, and I were roommates for a long time while I was in beauty school, and um, I met him in beauty school, and we were like two peas in a pod. We were just like totally attached at the hip, inseparable. And he helped me get out of a really terrible domestic violence situation. I ended up living with him and his family for about 4 years. And we hit it off. We were definitely meant to be in each other's lives. And shortly after I had met them, he invited me to a 4th of July barbecue at his house. I met his extended family, his dad, his aunts, his grandparents, his cute little nephews, his sister, her family, like all these people. And we had a great time. And so we go back to school, and maybe a few weeks had passed or whatever. I want to say it was around 3 weeks' time, and he didn't show up for school. And so I thought, well, maybe he overslept, maybe he missed the bus getting in, whatever. Wasn't super concerned about it. Figured he'd come in later. I'd catch up with him later. So I'm on the floor rolling a perm, and one of the educators comes over to me and she said, I need to talk to you. And I was like, can it wait a few minutes? Can I finish what I'm doing? And she said, I need to tell you now. And she had this really serious look on her face. And I thought, shit, what's going on, you know? So I excused myself. I come over and she said, your friend Jason isn't here today. He called to let us know that his sister has unexpectedly passed away. And he wanted to let you know so you're not concerned why he's not here. And I was like, shit, okay. So I had just met his sister 3 weeks before at a 4th of July barbecue. And she was super sweet. I remember she ended up giving me a ride to like the bus station so I could catch my connecting bus. And I didn't have a car at the time, so I just used public transportation. She was super sweet. I really thought she was a lot of fun. I thought her kids were adorable, and I was just super excited to like have met and made a new friend. So I was super sad when I found out that she had just passed. Jason, my friend, and her had like lived apart for many years. She was raised by their dad, he was raised by their mom. I don't know why they were separated or whatever. But so he was really sad because he was trying to reconnect with his sister, and then she passes away. So they think she passed away to like because of a lot of different medications having an interaction in her system out of the blue. And unfortunately, one of her children was the one that found her. So there was a lot of trauma attached to that one as well. The dream that I had wasn't about predicting her passing. It was even weirder than that. So we rode the bus into beauty school every morning. I think we had to take 2 or 3 buses to get there. And so one morning before I wake up, I have this really crazy dream that we're on the bus. We're talking to one of our educators. She's on the bus with us for some reason, which she didn't ride the bus with us or anything. And there's this van that ends up like hitting the bus and literally splitting it in half. And so there was a giant gaping hole and 2 sides of a bus, like there was just a giant split in the bus. So I get up and I tell Jason, I was like, I don't know if we should ride the bus today. Like I had a really unsettling dream. And I said, I told him everything that happened, and he kind of laughed it off. He was like, "You're batshit crazy." And he was like, "Come on, Jen, we gotta go. Let's go. We're gonna be late. We're gonna miss our stuff." And so I just shrugged it off. I was like, "Whatever. I don't know. Maybe I ate something weird. Whatever triggered that stupid dream. Whatever." So we get there. We're on our very last bus. We can see the campus, and we're almost at our stop. We slow down. The bus stops and everything. We're getting our stuff. our luggage that we had to carry, all of our supplies and everything. And just as we both step off, a fucking van hits the bus. Now, was it as catastrophic as in my dream? No, it wasn't at all. It was just a minor fender bender. Nobody was injured. There was no crazy stuff. The bus didn't split in half. But did it happen? Yes, the bus that we were on was hit by a van. So did I predict that? Yes, I did. Crazy shit, right? Was it super scary? No. Was it super weird? Yeah, it was just another one of my weird things that I've dreamt about. Okay, so another weird thing having to do with Jason and his extended family was he had an uncle Mike, and Mike and I were best friends. We would sit and watch like murder documentaries, crime documentaries together, and we would watch like paranormal type stuff together. And he knew that I had this gift. We didn't really know that I was a medium back then, but we knew I was psychic in nature. And so we'd just talk shit, and we'd sit there and we'd pal around about stuff. And I remember there was this, I can't remember the name of the show, but I want to say it was on like Discovery ID, where this psychic lady would help police like solve cold case murders and missing persons and things like that. And they had a group of these psychics that were part of this team, this show. And so we would watch that a lot. And he jokingly would tell me he worked at a gas station that was down the street from the house for years. And he would jokingly say that when he died, he was going to go haunt like the high school girls' locker room because he just wanted to like catch them in their underwear or something silly. And he said, I'd go haunt the gas station too, just because all those fuckers always pissed me off. And so he was a riot. He was a lot of fun. And so I remember one night I'm literally doing dishes in my kitchen, and Jason called me or texted me, and he said, I have some bad news. Uncle Mike's in the hospital. He had a heart attack. He was also a really bad diabetic that he didn't take good care of himself. And they said he's in a coma and we're unsure of whether he's going to pull through or not. I wanted to let you know, I don't know if you're going to be able to make it up here or not, but I needed to tell you because I know you guys were close. And so I was sad about that. I prayed about it. I hoped that things would improve. And I want to say it was a couple of days later, Jason called me again and he said, Uncle Mike passed away. I wanted to call and let you know, and I'll let you know about funeral arrangements and all those things. And so I gave him my condolences. Um, as I was cleaning up the kitchen that night when he called me the second time, I'm rinsing the soap suds out of the sink, and I noticed that there's a pile of soap suds that were in the perfect shape of a heart. And I always used to tell Mike, if you die or something, you got to come back and you got to give me a fucking clear sign. Nothing that I'm like, oh yeah, no, it didn't happen. Like a clear fucking sign. You better show up. And he always said that he would. And so the irony is that like, he knew I was psychic. He knew I could see things, had weird dreams and all that stuff. And I feel like he showed up. I also was out in my backyard that night, kind of crying, kind of talking to him out in spirit and everything. And I said, just give me a fucking sign that you're totally cool where you are, that you fucking made it, like show me that you fucking made it. And I saw not one, but two shooting stars back to back. So that plus the heart and the soap suds was my confirmation that he made it, that heaven was real and that he was okay on the other side. We're going to try and get through this episode without ruining our makeup today because we did that enough already. All right. So I know that heaven is real. Obviously, I channel all the time for people in readings. I'm a medium. I connect to the other side. So I know it's real, but it took me a long time to get to this point where I realized that. So I need to make that evident to anybody who's never seen me before. So the next really weird dream that I had in chronological order, my current partner, his parents had both passed away before I ever started dating him. So I've known John since high school, but we didn't date in high school. We were just friends. We were more acquaintances than anything. His best friend, Dennis, had married my younger sister, and they aren't together anymore. But in high school, they had dated a long time. And so we all kind of like palled around together and did stupid shit, stuff that teenagers do. And so John was kind of like always around. We had a class together, Dennis, me, and John, and I was in the middle of both of those two clowns, and they were always getting me in trouble. And so I hated being around them in class because they were just typical teenage guys, always causing trouble. So anyway, I didn't know John's parents at all. I had never met Jimmy and Marcy, never. And at the time that I had this dream, I don't even think that I had seen a photograph of either one of them. So I really didn't know anything about them other than, a few times that John had mentioned them about things like his mom was a really great cook or his dad had a funny sense of humor, things like that. So one night I had this dream about this man who really kind of reminded me of the actor Robert De Niro. So I'm sure you've seen him. He's been around for a long time. Just the silly like faces that he made and the kind of quirky sense of humor personality. And so in my dream, this man is literally laying down next to me in the bed. We're not doing anything together. He's just like laying there and we're having a conversation. And so the first part of this conversation, he's joking with me and he's making silly faces and he's just being kind of funny. And then he gets really stoic and really serious and his whole demeanor kind of changed. And I was like, oh. And he said, listen, I have something that I need to show you and I need you to like really, really look at it. Memorize it if you can. Every detail that stands out to you, just remember it. You're going to need to know it later. And I was like, okay. So he shows me this ring, this piece of jewelry. It was gold. It had a big red stone in it, like a square rectangle shape in a gold setting. It was a big, kind of gaudy piece of jewelry, something that I would equate to like an old style mobster might have worn as like a pinky ring. Okay. And so he tells me all about this ring. He tells me why it's important, and that the only way that his two sons, Matt and John, are going to actually believe that he came and visited me in this dream, because he specifically said, it's not a dream, I'm here talking to you, that you're going to have to describe this ring in detail, that it's a clue for them, and they're going to be able to put the puzzle pieces together. Okay, so I look at the ring, I memorize what it looks like and everything. And this has been over 10 years at this point that I had this dream. And I talk about it in detail in my book. So if you're curious on more, it's in there. So anyway, as I have this conversation with Jimmy and he shows me the ring and we go through all the details and everything, I wake up from the dream the next day, but I remember it. I remember the dream in pretty great detail. So a day or two goes by. I hadn't seen John, and so the next day that I end up meeting up with him, we're sitting and having dinner, and his kids are there and everything, and I just happened to remember it. And I said, so I had a really oddball dream the other night, and I think I was talking to your dad. Now, mind you, John knows that I'm psychic at that point, but I don't think he believed it at all. I think he just thinks I'm kind of batshit crazy, just a little delusional, a little fucking out there. But he doesn't care. He's just like, whatever it is, what it is. So I explained to him this dream. I tell him about this man. I describe him. I said, he's older, looks kind of like you. He's got more gray in his hair, but he's got like this quirky sense of humor. He makes kind of silly faces, things like that. And I said, and then he got really serious in the dream and he showed me this piece of jewelry. And I said, so what I need to know from you is, did your dad have anything that was like a super significant piece of jewelry that he would be super proud of, that he really like would wear it when he dressed up, or he might have worn it more than that? Um, but that it was like a flashy piece of jewelry besides a wedding ring. Did he own something like that? And he said, I don't know, you're supposed to be the psychic, you tell me. And I said, well, let me describe to you what he showed me, and you tell me if he owned something like that. I said it was a gold ring. It was in a gold setting, kind of a chunky piece of jewelry. It was big, and it had a red stone, either a ruby or a garnet in the center, that was either square or rectangle shape. I said, do you know if he had anything like that? I watched all the color drain out of his face simultaneously and his jaw fall open. And he said, how in the literal fuck would you know that? And he stared at me. And I was like, so is that a yes? Did he own something like that? And he said, yeah, he did. And I know I've never told you about that piece of jewelry. So how do you know that? And I said, well, he showed it to me in a dream the other night. Then I said, it happened like 2 days ago that I had this dream. I forgot about it. I hadn't seen you. I hadn't talked to you. So it kind of dawned on me when I saw you tonight to mention it to you. And he said, yeah, he did own something like that. He found it someplace, and that the dad had had to pawn it many, many years ago. And so, like, nobody has that ring in the family or anything anymore. He doesn't know what happened to it. He has no idea where it is, but he knows that neither him or his brother has it. And he was just kind of like, but how would you know that? And so I literally told him, I said, your dad had a whole conversation with me and he showed it to me. Like, I could physically see it, like I can physically see you. And I said, so I don't know. I just know what he showed me, and he told me it was important to remember the dream and to remember the ring. So I did. And he was just kind of like, how in the world? Like, he was trying to figure out a rational way to explain this dream. He couldn't. A few weeks go by, we end up at his brother's house for dinner, and apparently it was the dad's birthday that day, middle of summer sometime. I still don't remember. And we're talking about the parents and everything. And John happens to mention the dream that I had. So, same thing. I told his brother all about what I saw. And same thing. He was like, that's wild. But my dad really believed in that stuff. They both tell me. He knew that that stuff was real. And they said, so if anybody was going to come through, it would be our dad, you know? And so Jimmy has come through subsequently a few times. I want to say about 3 or 4 times total. Always gives me different details, different information. The second dream that he came through, he showed me in detail a room. I didn't recognize the room. It was a room in the house, and I could draw where things were. They had like the old like lanterns, that the kerosene lanterns that have like the top on them. I can't think of the hurricane top on them. He showed me a couple of those. He showed me a stack of books, and one was this giant book that was like a leather bound book. In my dream, it was really big. It was like 3 feet long, and he said there was like important stuff in there. I didn't know what it was, but I told John and Matt about the dream, and they figured out what the book actually was. It was like a family Bible or something crazy. He also gave me really weird stuff, like it seemed like coordinates. So I wrote all of those down. I mentioned all of this stuff in the book as well. When I Googled the coordinates, I want to say it was like someplace in Africa or something. I do remote view. It's not something that like I do all the time, but I have done it several times with pretty scary accuracy with the silly things that I've seen. So it does happen. I'm still not 100% sure what he was trying to tell me with all the numbers that he gave me, but they're written down because I still don't know exactly what they were intended for. So weird things like that, that I've seen things that don't even exist in the 3D reality, but they did. Predictive things. So I don't know. What does it all mean? Sometimes I figure it out, and sometimes I don't at all. So the next one is a dream that I had, again, about somebody that I have had never met up until that point. Let's put it that way, because many years later I did actually encounter this person. So you've probably heard of Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium. She had a really like big show on whatever channel it was, TLC, I think, for years. And she's also a medium. Now, I had never met her. I had never been like a guest on her show or anything like that. Never had a reading from her personally or anything. I always want to preface that about some of these things. And so in my dream that I had about her, I actually wrote it in the book as June 3rd, 2017. So the dream that I had that I met her, I went to her house in my dream. She had a really cool room that looked like a cave. It was supposed to help bring out your spirit guides. Wild, right? It reminded me of an Indian teepee. Very cozy, not scary at all. Teresa told me, first of all, yes, you're psychic. So I had this dream in 2017, many, many years before I was doing what I currently do as well. So she said that I had to trust God and that my messages are from Him, that God will help guide me on my journey and also learn how to meditate and to ground. She said that it would help me to not get sick or to have bad energy coming from what it is that I'm picking up. I wrote that she was awesome, and thank you, Teresa. You rock. So fast forward, I was supposed to go to a concert in 2021 of my absolute favorite singer, Brett Eldredge. It was still in the height of COVID stuff going on. And so the concert that I had front row tickets to, that I was super stoked to go to, was canceled last minute, like a few days before the show. And so I was super upset about it. John happened to get us tickets to go see, of all people, Teresa Caputo on the exact same night locally where we lived in Colorado Springs. And while we didn't get personal one-on-one readings from her, she was reading for people like 2 people away from me. So I got to see her up close and personal. She was super fun to watch her work. She's really, really a cutie. I love her personality. She's just hilarious to me. And I think that we would have been friends in another lifetime, But so, wild shit, right? I could have never predicted that I would have been close enough. I could have probably touched her, and to have a dream that she told me these things, right? So, are we connecting to the ethers in our sleep? Are we connecting to the collective consciousness while we sleep, when we meditate, when we pray, all those things? I personally believe, yes, we do. We have the ability to do that. So, whether that can be scientifically proven or not, I don't know. I don't care. I know the things that I have seen, and I know the things that I've predicted, a lot of them have actually happened. So when I have disturbing dreams, like the one that I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, it's unsettling to me. And I'll tell you why. Because the next one was the beginning of my spiritual awakening, and it let me know that what I can see sometimes does actually happen. All right. So I want to say it was probably about April or May of 2020, April or May of 2020, I had a dream about my own mom. I had a dream that nobody could reach her, that I kept trying to call her, text her, like no one could get a hold of her, and we didn't know why. Now, it wasn't uncommon for my mom to just like not charge her phone, or, not check her messages or things like that for a little while, like hours, sometimes a day or so, but usually not more than that. And so in this dream, I dreamed that she had died in her house and that we didn't know right away. Like we had to hear it through the grapevine from the police department or neighbors. And so I was really distraught. I woke up the next morning in a panic. I woke up crying. And I remember the first thing I did was I called my mom, and I was like, she has to pick up. She has to pick up. And so she does. She answers, and she sounded kind of sleepy. And I said, I'm so sorry if I woke you up, but I'm not sorry. And she kind of laughed at me, and she's like, what is going on? And I said, I had a really bad dream that you died. And I told her what I saw and everything, and she kind of laughed it off. And that wasn't uncommon either. She's just like, I'm fine. Don't worry about it. Whatever. It's okay. But she told me, I know where I'm going when I die. Like, I'm not afraid to die. If it's my time, it's my time. I don't want you to worry about that. I don't want you to lose sleep over it. I'm okay. Nothing's wrong. My mom had had 2 massive strokes before I had this dream. And she wasn't in the greatest of health. She had high blood pressure and things like that. But she lived on her own. She loved her independence, and she lived like an hour and a half drive from me at the time. And so in the height of COVID, her building was shut down unless you were a caregiver or you worked at the building or you were a resident there. Like they weren't allowed to have outside visitors in because they were worried about all the COVID stuff. And so when I went to go visit her, she would meet me outside, and we would just go do stuff like go run errands, go get a bite to eat, go to the park, whatever. That's what we did. And so um, I remember telling John, my boyfriend, and his oldest daughter, Julie, about the dream after the fact. I think I was like babysitting her dog because she was going out of town or something for work. And so the only thing that didn't actually happen in the dream was Julia had tried to like take over the funeral arrangements, and I got so frustrated that I punched her in the mouth. That was the only part that didn't happen in the dream. Other than that, the rest of it did actually come true. So fast forward like a month roughly, it's June. One of my sons has a regular scheduled doctor's appointment. I take him, I'm sitting in the lobby, and my phone goes off, and it's my niece, my sister's daughter. And she said, Auntie, I can't reach Grandma. Have you heard from her? And I said, No, I'm due to go see her in a couple of days. What's going on? And she said, one of my friend's grandmas that lives in Grandma's apartment building um, called to offer condolences for her passing. And I was like, what? And I said, that doesn't make any sense. Like what are we missing here was the big thing that I kept thinking. What are we missing? What happened? And so I said, well, don't panic. Let me try and get a hold of her. Let me make some phone calls. I'll call you back as soon as I have an answer. So she said, okay. So first thing I did was try and get a hold of my mom. First, I texted her. Didn't hear anything in about 10 minutes. I tried to Facebook her because she was always on Facebook. I called her. She didn't answer. Left a voicemail. Didn't get a reply. So I was like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere trying to get a hold of her. Let me call her office. Let me see if somebody physically can go check on her and let me know she's okay. So I get a hold of someone at the office. I tell them who I am, tell them who she is, tell them what the situation is. And I said, I need somebody to go do a welfare check on her immediately. We're hearing rumors that she passed away. I can't get to her. I'm an hour and a half drive away. I need somebody to physically go see if she's okay and let me know what the deal is. So they said, okay. I didn't hear back from him at least in 45 minutes. So by then, we're heading home from the doctor. I had called John in the interim and I told him, I said, I think something's happened to my mom. I'm trying to find out if she's okay. There's rumors that she's died, that people in the building have told my sister and my niece that she has passed away. And he says, don't panic, just get home. We'll call the cops. We'll have them go check on her. So that's what we did. So we called the Denver Police Department. I explained to them the situation, tell them that my elderly mom hasn't been able to be reached. I haven't spoken to her in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, and that we're hearing rumors that she's passed away in her home. Can somebody please go verify her well-being and please let us know what is going on? They said, yes, we'll be happy to do that. So for about 30 minutes, I sat there on pins and needles, and when my phone rang, I got a sinking feeling in my stomach, and I just kind of knew. I just kind of knew that it was coming true, unfortunately. I remember before that phone call pleading with God not to take her, that I wasn't ready to lose my mom, and that, I really just desperately wanted to be wrong in this situation, that I wasn't ready to go through this yet. So the irony is that the police officer that I spoke to, the victim's advocate's lady's name was Marcy. That's John's mother's name that I never met, so that's a weird coincidence. She proceeded to tell me what happened, that they had made contact with my mom's unit, and that when they entered her apartment, they heard running water in the bathroom. She was in a studio apartment, so it wasn't a big place. And that they found her in the bathtub deceased at the time, but that she wasn't submerged, like she hadn't drowned. They knew that the water was running, but she wasn't like underwater because the drain was open. So the water was just running, it wasn't actually submerging her. And they said that they found her in a seated position in the tub, that it looks like she had fallen either getting in or getting out of the tub, and that she had been there for a little while. So my cousin and I had figured out a timeline of the last time that she had posted anything online and the last time that anyone had actually interacted or seen her. So we figured out she had been there roughly a week and a half to 2 weeks. So unfortunately, that dream was uncannily predictive in nature. Um, it's how I knew that I could really see things. It's how I knew that I really had a gift. And so that was what led me to my spiritual awakening of trying to develop these gifts to help other people. I don't ever want to be right predicting someone's passing ever again. I would rather be completely wrong. I would rather people be like, she doesn't know what she's talking about when it comes to that. That is what I would want. That to me would be best case scenario, because I don't want to be right about those things. Worst case scenario is that I am right, and I have been right a few times. I have predicted, unfortunately, members of my own family passing away, and in some instances, in really great detail. So I document these things on the off chance that it does happen. Again, I don't have any proof that there's anything that's going to happen. I'm not trying to fearmonger anybody, and I'm never trying to scare somebody with what I can see. I simply need to document something that I've seen. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't want it to happen. But if it does, I need to know that I saw it. This is a gift that I have. Sometimes I see things that are not great. Sometimes I see things that are amazing that I want to share. And I do share certain things that I channel, or certain things that I remote view, or certain things that I have dreams about. Some are funny in nature. Some are just silly. Some are really heavy. But this is my gift, and this is what I'm here to do. This is what I'm here to share. So you got to share all of it sometimes, unfortunately, even if it's the heavy stuff, even if it's the stuff we don't want to share. So fingers crossed and lots of prayers that everybody is totally okay and that this isn't like some sort of loop that somebody might be in where things are repeating themselves. But if it is, I know that this person will be okay on the other side. And I feel like this is just a dream at this point. I don't feel like anything's going to happen. It's unsettling because it's a dream about somebody that might potentially be harmed. But I don't think that that's actually going to play out. And I'm going to pray over the situation that it doesn't, that this person is energetically protected from anybody trying to cause them harm, and that they get to live a full and long life and do everything that they wanted to do. What kind of crazy dreams have you had? Have you had any that have predicted crazy things? Would you be willing to share those in a future episode? Email me if you do. Have a great rest of your week and happy May Day.